The U.S. war on drugs. Can it be won? How narcotics affect communities.
No one's talking about substance abuse, about drug trafficking in the United States. It's just going to get worse, and it's going to come to a trauma within the United States.
This, as an independent filmmaker debuts a movie about the most notorious drug lord in the world.
There's hardly been any talk about his arrest since it happened. It's suspiciously quiet. There's something going on there.
Plus, an analysis of next week's primary. This is Arizona Week. It's a never-ending fight, supply and demand of illicit drugs. Tony Coulson is the former assistant agent in charge of the Drug Enforcement Agency in Tucson. He's now an independent consultant, and even as a retiree, he's continuing to wage a war on drugs. Let's talk about that U.S. war on drugs. This started back in the 70s. Where are we today? I mean, cocaine, it used to be heroin, or is it heroin now?
Well, heroin is unprecedented. The levels of heroin in the United States is unprecedented, and it was something that was very predictable. We have heard many times that the amount of heroin that's available on the streets now, we didn't see it coming. That couldn't be farther from the truth. When the United States got addicted to prescription opiates, drugs, and the DEA started to crack down on the amount of prescription opiates out that were being dispensed, the next step was heroin. And Chapo Guzman and the cartels saw that business model way ahead of time, ramped up production, and flooded the market with heroin, black tar heroin. This heroin is now cheaper than a prescription pill that you can get off the street. So the natural continuum of addiction from prescription opiates to heroin has led to this huge issue across the United States, and particularly here in Tucson, Chicago, and New York. Treatment centers for heroin addiction, methadone clinics, are busting out the seams. We've never seen this amount of heroin on our streets. We've never seen this amount of methamphetamine on our streets. We've never seen the amount of marijuana that is coming into the United States ever before at the levels that they're coming in now.
And we're talking about an average person who's using these illicit drugs.
Heavily impacted communities, and it seems like we never quite get the attention of the United States here from the southwest border because methamphetamine hasn't quite hit Washington, D.C. and the power circles in Washington. But when it does, like it has, and heroin is hit on the East Coast in Vermont and Maine and little places like that, now you see a call to action, but you don't hear that from our government. You hear that from the communities and from the local governments, but really the dialogue that we've had on drug abuse in the United States has disappeared with this administration, completely disappeared.
Americans want it. It's an issue that's politicized. Where do we go from here?
Well, where do we go from here is a real key issue. First of all, we can't continue not investing in fixing people. Providing monies to communities to have the professionals in place to do treatment, have the beds in place to do residential treatment, and have that ability to get them in recovery and back functioning in our communities. The second thing is that we haven't addressed the corruption in Mexico. All these drugs come either grown, manufactured, or come through Mexico into the United States. And the same with all these children that were coming up from Central America, coming through Mexico, through a corrupt system. And what we have tolerated is a massive level of corruption and favor in Mexico that does not meet the values of American society. And we need to get tough with Mexico to knock down the trafficking that's occurring through their country into our country. The cartels, now that Chapo Guzman is in jail, you see you see the other cartels that Chapo Guzman pushed out, they're starting to come back. Chapo Guzman has stayed strong, and so we've really done nothing in Mexico to curb the supply that's coming in, and we've done nothing to invest in the people that are going through the throes of addiction in the United States. So we have to have a dialogue, and we haven't had a good dialogue about drug abuse since Len Bias died in 1984. Even Nancy Reagan's Just Say No, which, you know, is hotly debated whether it was effective, at least we had a dialogue. We don't have a dialogue. No one's talking about substance abuse, about drug trafficking in the United States. It's just going to get worse, and it's going to come to a trauma within the United States before we have that dialogue again and we start reinvesting in our communities to help these people recover so that they become productive members of our society.
Why don't we talk about it as a society? Is it politically incorrect? Leadership just doesn't want to acknowledge it?
Yes, and leadership does not want to acknowledge it at all. We don't talk about immigration because it's not something that we can politically accomplish. We don't want to talk about substance abuse. We want to talk about economy. We want to talk about race, which are all good things to talk about. Or we talk about insurgency in different countries in the world. But we're not talking about something that costs our country hundreds of billions of dollars in wasted money that we don't then reinvest to fix in our country. It's a tragedy because so many families are going through so much misery now, and we don't address it. We've never been in a war footing on drugs. We've never done enough. We've never done enough. And we need to address Mexico and the corruption in Mexico. We need to address those people that are in trouble here in the United States. And we need to do it now because we're going to lose a generation. We're going to lose millions of people that we're going to have to manage and take care of for the rest of their lives.
More with Tony Coulson in a few minutes, but next, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, the world's most powerful drug lord, has been in a Mexican prison since February. Independent filmmaker Charlie Min is debuting a movie that calls Guzman's arrest into question. 6 months in the making, the film debuts in Arizona this weekend.
El Chapo challenges the identity, if you will, of the man arrested on February the 22nd, 2014. A lot of doubt out there on whether it's really the Chapo Guzman that they took in Mazatlan. A recent national poll in Mexico showed 42% believe it's him, 42% believe it's not him, 16% unaccounted for. In El Paso, Texas, which borders Juarez, Mexico, El Pasoans believe that 62% are not convinced it's him, 38% believe it's him. So plenty of doubt out there. And
why is it so hard to believe that Mexico arrested the most notorious, dangerous drug trafficker?
Because he went down without a single shot being fired. We're talking about the most powerful drug lord in the world. Where was his security? He reportedly has 200 armed guards surrounding him at all times. Where were they? When have you ever seen a news story like this where a colossal fugitive is captured and we're not exactly sure it's that person? I don't know if that's ever happened before in the history of news.
A lot of people may say, well, okay, Osama bin Laden was captured, killed while he was sleeping. The same thing happened here with Chapo. He wasn't captured, he was just captured, not killed. But that happened earlier in the morning, so maybe authorities just knew the right time to get him.
Well, I'm not even sure if bin Laden was captured, but I don't think there's as much talk about that as Chapo Guzman. This was a combined effort between Mexican Marines and the USA, DEA, and intelligence. This was a collaboration between those two groups. And I believe that if it's not him, I don't think either the United States or Mexico is going to admit the error, because this would be the greatest embarrassment in the history of law enforcement if it's not Chapo Guzman.
What are some of the reasons that you really believe that there is a question surrounding who this person is that they have in custody, claiming to be him?
Right off the bat, the two pictures, it doesn't look alike from 1993 to 2014. This man is rarely photographed, has never given an interview. So when you see the arrest in 1993, compared to 2014, you're going to tell me that's the same person? Secondly, I mentioned there wasn't a single shot fired. The third thing, the violence has not changed in Mexico at all since the arrest. Usually when a big cartel head is taken down, a power vacuum is created where another rival cartel will try to come in and perhaps expose the weakened cartel who just had a big member arrested. That hasn't happened. There's hardly been any talk about his arrest since it happened. It's suspiciously quiet. There's something going on there.
He looks different. Does that imply maybe the person who is in custody is not him, or maybe it is him and he had work done?
Well, when you have all that money, you can do anything. You could buy anything. So a lot of people believe that he had plastic surgery. If it's not him, then this man should win an Academy Award. He really should be introduced in Los Angeles at the Shrine Auditorium next March and nominated for an Oscar as the double for Chapo Guzman.
What is, from your perspective as a filmmaker, why did you say, I've got to do something about this? Everyone's talking about it, it's time.
I'm not quite sure everyone's talking about it, but here you have such a rare story. I didn't want to make a biopic on Chapo Guzman. I'm an independent filmmaker. That would have cost a lot of money to go way, way back to his early days. This is really about his arrest and what people in Culiacan, Mazatlan, Sinaloa, La Tuna, Bariaguato think about his arrest, and some border scholars in the United States. I don't think it's really been talked about too much about his identity. As a matter of fact, it's hardly been talked about at all, his arrest, since it happened. Now, how could the greatest fugitive since Osama bin Laden, this is Chapo Guzman who was taken down, how can there be no talk about his arrest and what he's doing, how he's created hell in the United States? He's public enemy #1 in Chicago without ever stepping foot in Chicago. I mean, he was declared that, first time that's been declared in Chicago since Al Capone in 1930. They're averaging like 50 shootings a weekend now in Chicago. Chicago has become the new Juarez. It's more dangerous than Ciudad Juarez. Chapo's influence reaches Asia, Europe. He's everywhere and nowhere, is what they used to call him.
What was it like for you shooting and filming this video in Mexico, where some people love him, others hate him?
Right. Very challenging. Whenever you shoot a movie about the Mexican drug war, my best advice is you get in and you get out. You do what you need to do. It's a job. You don't want to compromise. But you have to look out for yourself and your devoted crew, who's very courageous. The worst part for me was driving to La Tuna, where he's from. It's about a 3-hour ride from Bariaguato. It's a single dirt track road, and it's winding, twisting, turning, and there's not much give. It's narrow, and if you don't concentrate, you could literally fall off a cliff. I could see why he was hiding up there. Hardly anyone can get up there, and we didn't even have a four-wheeler. I mean, this was tough. So we go up there, and we could have been shot on the way there, because apparently every car is being looked at. Chapo and his mom live in La Tuna. Of course, now if Chapo was arrested, then he wouldn't be there, but his mom could have easily been up there.
You want this film to shed some light on a real story.
It's easy to look at this war and give it a political spin. I always try to give it a humanitarian spin. We're talking about 120,000 Mexican people who lost their lives. Let's forget about Fast and Furious. Let's forget about Obama and Holder and Peña Nieto and Calderon. Let's talk about the innocent Mexican people who never asked for this war, never asked for this violence. Let's think about them. Forget about all the politics for a second. Let's throw that out the window. What about a grieving mother who lost her 2 kids? What about these innocent Mexican people who never asked for this violence and are suffering each and every day? Those people have to be given a voice.
Back to my interview now with Tony Coulson, a former assistant agent in charge for the Drug Enforcement Agency in Tucson. In your work here along the border, you've seen it, just the drugs cross the border, but the tentacles reach very deep and far into the United States.
Until we have that serious conversation, until we have that serious investment in fixing the current generation of folks out there that are addicted, until we address our neighbor to the south, Mexico, and the corruption that goes on there that allows these drugs to come through their country into ours, we're going to lose a generation. We're like 2 generations behind fixing ourselves. So until we have those serious thoughts about doing that, until we have action, we're still 2 generations out from fixing this nation's drug abuse problem.
Just as long as we want it, the countries to the south will keep providing it.
That's correct. I mean, the use, we consume, and, depending on whether, we're in a recession or whether we have money available, impacts the amount of drugs we consume. And if you don't fix kids, those kids become adults. Very likely, or a good percentage of their kids will become addicted and will have multi-generational addiction problems in our citizens. And that brings then productivity. Are they working? Are they going to school? You know, it affects all that. And so we have this growing disparity of people that don't have because they have a substance abuse problem and people that do have. And what do we do with that segment of society that we're ignoring? And not everyone is ignoring it. What I'm saying is that people see it. It's the action, and we have to have a government committed in fixing that segment of society. And we don't have that right now. We don't have it.
So the enforcement is changing, and so is the trade from the smuggler's perspective.
I worry about our enforcement posture along the border. We have immigration issues, we have drug issues that come across the border. They've now come together. The drug traffickers own the immigration, so they turn the spigot on and off to allow either as a diversion or to enhance their ability to smuggle drugs across the border. I worry that we get mixed up and we use the government enforcement agencies as kind of a tool to turn the spigot on and off. Border Patrol is now looking for drugs, not so much looking for people. So immigration numbers are down. Well, there's immigration numbers down because Border Patrol's mission is to look for drugs, or is it to look for people that are coming across? So we play this game, and it's not transparent to the public of what happens. And that's a problem, the transparency in what our enforcement posture is along the border. The other piece is that with one of the things I have a concern about that we're seeing in videos from some of these trail cameras that are putting up, is for the first time ever, I'm seeing groups of 4 smugglers coming across with small backpacks, wiping out their trails. This is heroin and methamphetamine coming across. We've never seen hard drugs come outside the ports of entry. We're seeing that now in very big numbers. So that's a huge concern in terms of detecting and finding, and the traffickers are now getting very smart, and they're bringing the harder drugs, the heroin and the methamphetamine especially, in between the ports of entry and not through the ports of entry, and that's a big concern.
To much different news now, the primary next week on Tuesday, and joining me to discuss some of the heated races are Howard Fischer from Capitol Media Services. He joins us from Phoenix, and from Arizona Public Media, my colleague Christopher Conover. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's get right to the governor's race. Christopher, at this point, 3 leaders, but anything is up in the air next week.
Everything is up in the air. All the polls do have Doug Ducey as your leader, but Christine Jones and Scott Smith are not that far behind, and with all the undecided voters still out there, about 10%, maybe mid-teens, depending on which poll you're looking at, there's still plenty of votes that are unaccounted for. And of course, we have absentee voters and early voters. And, you know, the governor is not giving up on this race. She has come out and endorsed Smith. She's campaigning in Tucson for him this week. This race is not going to end until Tuesday night.
And Howard, we saw a lot of support for Scott Smith. So what are his chances in the next few days here?
A lot of it's going to depend on the independents. You know, independents have been able to vote for about a decade in primaries, but for some reason they haven't turned out. I think it's finally dawned on them that they can go into a polling place on Tuesday, request a ballot for the Republican primary or the Democratic primary if they want to, and have an influence. And Scott has clearly been trying to get some of those voters. They can make a real difference. Remember, there are more independents in Arizona than Republicans or Democrats. And if he can capture the independents, if he can actually get them to the polls, you know, he can certainly give Doug Ducey a run for his money and perhaps even be the nominee.
And there is some concern on both of your parts that we may not have an answer Tuesday night. We may see this last into the next day or so afterward.
I think with the close race, yeah. Go ahead, Howard.
Well, I think that's very clear because, again, it's a 6-way race. I mean, if you figure that, let's say, even Andrew Thomas, who's a former Maricopa County attorney who's got a core group of supporters, let's say he polls 12, 15, 17%. Christine Jones is not going away. She's spent, close to $5 million between her own money and independent money. She'll certainly be a force to be reckoned with. Frank Riggs is out there, and he'll pick up a few points, if for no other reason than some people just happen to like him. You're going to have an interesting race here. Ken Bennett certainly will pick up a few points. He's got more government experience than anyone else. And we could end up going to bed on Tuesday night, maybe even going to bed Wednesday night, not having a clear winner.
Christopher, a long night then for sure.
It is going to be a long night, it looks like. With a six-way race, I talked to Ken Bennett not that long ago. He put on his Secretary of State hat briefly, and he was pretty sure that this is a record number in a gubernatorial primary for just one party. If you split 100% of the votes six ways, you get about 17% you need to win, but you're obviously not going to get that. With all these votes still out there, it's going to be a long night.
Okay, let's move on to John Huppenthal, our State of Education here, and very controversial, making some remarks in the last few months or so. And then just yesterday, Howard, you were covering that press conference up in Phoenix where he talked about the undocumented children who have recently been coming from Central America.
Well, this started out with a decent premise. We had 50,000 unaccompanied kids cross the border in the Rio Grande Valley, and about 200 of them were resettled here in Arizona, at least temporarily. They're going to be going to public schools, and he said that's going to cost the state about $1 million a year, and he'd like the federal government to pick up the costs. But where the press conference went off the rails is where he said, well, the Obama administration is going to issue some order imminently, and we're going to have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 kids suddenly in Arizona public schools, costing hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, there are a couple of problems with that. Number one, the U.S. Supreme Court has consistently said you educate kids regardless of their citizenship and immigration status. The kids are already here. If the president gives them legal status, that doesn't change anything. Number two is this is a press conference 6 days before the primary. He's in a dead heat with Diane Douglas, who is coming on strong for the Republican nomination. And a lot of people saw this as strictly a shameless political maneuver by him to line up some votes.
And Christopher, we talked about this even in the last couple of weeks. Is this political, or is this part of his strategy in campaigning?
Exactly. Recently, he's come under fire for his seemingly changing position on Common Core. He released a video for the beginning of the school year to all the teachers in the state explaining his position on Common Core, and he did that from his official account. And again, there were questions at that time. Is this official or is this campaign? Nobody officially in education was beating him up about Common Core. It was Diane Douglas who was beating him up about Common Core. So he now twice has had some things that have raised some eyebrows done officially that, as Howie very correctly mentioned, in the waning days of a very close campaign, he does them in the official office. It looks a little odd.
Okay. Howard, let's take a break from the primaries and move on to the big news that just came out. Arizona now having to shell out more cash for public education.
Yes, this goes back to the year 2000 when voters said, we want to raise our state sales tax by 0.6 cents to 5.6%, and we want aid to schools adjusted for inflation every year. And that went along just fine until 2009. When the legislature said, we really don't have the money, and so we're not going to fund inflation. Well, the schools sued, went all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, you broke the law, sent it back to a judge who said, let's do the computations. And she figured that immediately they're owed $317 million above what they're otherwise going to get, and another $320 the year after that and the year after that. The state had come in and said, well, give us a reprieve, and what the judge decided this week is no, these kids earn the money, they deserve the money, the people have spoken. Now, this isn't the problem immediately for the simple reason we've got about $450 million in the rainy day fund. But next year, we're actually running a structural deficit, and if you drain the rainy day fund, and you add $320 million in additional funds next year, now we've got an interesting decision. Can you raise taxes? It takes a 2/3 vote. Gubernatorial candidates say they don't want to raise taxes. Where else can you cut? There's a real crunch coming this way.
All right, and Christopher, this adds up to $1 billion over 5 years. The legislature not in session right now. How likely is this to move forward now?
Well, here's the fascinating thing. The judge said, send the money now. We're in the school year. Send the $317 million now. But as Howie said, it really starts to cascade further down the road. And whoever wins the gubernatorial race this year is going to have to deal with this in the longer term. The short term is easy because of the rainy day fund. It's the long term that's the real problem.
All right, Howard Fischer.
And one other quick thing on timing, you know, the judge isn't requiring them to have a special session, but she might be willing to wait until January, though.
Okay, we'll stay tuned for that, but more importantly, look for some answers next week. Howard Fischer from Capitol Media Services, thank you so much. Also, Christopher Conover from Arizona Public Media. Gentlemen, thank you for your analysis. The Buzz now, and joining me again is my colleague Christopher Conover. Christopher, Congress in recess right now. Senator McCain making some stops here in Arizona and at Raytheon, of all places, here locally.
Exactly. He was here this week. Senator Flake was here last week. And since they're home, they're making the stops, if you will, talking with the folks at Raytheon here who make the Tomahawk cruise missile, amongst other weapon systems, big employer here in southern Arizona.
Right. One of the issues that he brought up, two things that he thinks are facing the state, which fire and water. Let's listen in on that now.
Water is going to be a vital, and measures are going to have to be taken that may be somewhat uncomfortable to us. I'm not sure there's not any one answer, but there are several answers.
Pretty sobering reminder that, of course, we live in the desert, our resources are limited. That's something important for him to talk about, though, as he makes the rounds and heads back to Washington.
Especially on the federal level. His seatmate, if you will, Senator John Kyle, former seatmate, was the big water guy. That was something that his legacy was built on. Now McCain is picking that up. Not that he wasn't active in water, but it was always really Kyle's deal. And now McCain is picking that up, and it may seem like we have plenty of water. It is monsoon season. We've gotten some good rains, but we are still in a very serious drought.
Okay, Congress goes back in just a few weeks now. And immigration, we think, is probably the hot topic. Immigration
is going to be a hot topic, not only with the most recent border crisis, but also what will President Obama do, if anything. People do expect him to do something with some sort of executive order. Okay, we'll look forward to your reports in the coming weeks. And that's our program. Join us next week for a full analysis of the primary election results. For all of us at Arizona Public Media, I'm Lorriane Rivera. Thanks for joining us.